Everybody doing this morning? Hopefully you guys are staying cool. I stepped outside today. It's in New Jersey anyhow. We're approaching 100 degrees. It's about 94, and it's one of those muggy days, and it's a little overcast with all that smoke that we're getting from Canada. But happy Thursday, and I appreciate you guys being here. You guys ready for our last and final day? You guys ready to learn some information? This is actually my favorite part of the 3 days because we're talking about the things that really transform my business. You know, we're starting off by talking about pre-qualification, which is such a big thing. And I'm so excited for you guys to plug in and get this information. For those of you who took me up on the invite and joined my Real Talk call last night, it was a great conversation, great special guest with Khadijah. I appreciated everyone who showed up and joined. And if you didn't join, I'll make sure in the future you guys are getting those invites and you have opportunities to come in and fellowship with us and hear some great guest speakers, you know, share their stories and their journeys in life and in real estate. So with that being said, I just want to know if there's anyone on here for the third day that wasn't in day 1 or 2. And if you are here and you're new, I'd love to just see where you're from. So throw that in the chat. If anyone knew, because I saw we had a few late registrations with people joining late. So if you're coming in for the first time, tell me where you're from. And I'm seeing Allentown, PA. Okay, not too far from me. Okay, appreciate it. I appreciate it. Listen, I want to go ahead and get started because I want to be respectful of your time today. So let me share my screen here. And am I spotlighted? Matt, I think you have me spotlighted there. All right, perfect. Perfect. So before I get started, just wanted to remind you guys, if you see anything on the screen, if I say anything and there's a major takeaway that you have, or you want to just start creating some content, as we all should be doing as real estate agents, I want to encourage you to just grab your phone, take a screen grab, you know, talk about what you learned, share something on either TikTok or on Instagram. I have both my handles up here. And by the way, I think if I remember correctly, I think I'm around 6 shy of hitting 10K on TikTok. So maybe you guys will help me bump that number up. I'm always looking to grow that number. So follow me there if you haven't followed me, but definitely post and tag any great information that you guys see in the event today. So what I want to do is just briefly review what we covered yesterday, just as a refresher. We talked about convincing versus connecting, why you don't want to go on appointments convincing someone to hire you, but connecting with them and understanding their motivation so they want to choose you for the job of selling their home. We talked about the importance of not winging your listing presentation, but following a canned listing presentation. We also discussed being able to defend the comps and making sure that when you're pricing a property, you're pricing it at a price point that will cause it to sell and it's not sitting on the market where it's going to end up selling for less money over time. The other thing was also understanding a seller's motivation so that when you are meeting with them, instead of making the meeting about you, you're making it about their motivation. You're actually fighting for them, which is what we should be doing. Closing at the end of the presentation, we discussed that. We discussed that they expect you to close, and the natural progression of a great listing presentation is them signing the paperwork and closing. And so you have to have a 5X close system to make sure you're giving yourself an opportunity to get that paperwork signed. Because if you remember, one of the things I shared yesterday is that when you leave the house, if you don't get that paperwork signed, your chances of getting it signed later go down to about 50%. So you really want to be really on point and on top of closing when you're at the listing presentation. And lastly, we talked about the whole concept of the interview process, recognizing that you're not the one being interviewed. You're actually interviewing them to find out, is it a listing that you want to take? Are they a serious seller? Are they motivated? Are they coachable? And so the whole concept of who is interviewing who. So let's get into this. Let's talk about experience here. Here's what I want you guys to understand with experience. Something's changed for me, you know, when I realized that the key for me to converting the listing appointment to sign contracts wasn't really about me. And you guys have heard me say this over and over again, and I'll continue to repeat it. It wasn't about my company that I worked for. It wasn't about my sales background. It wasn't about all my stats. It was really about getting the contract signed and understanding their motivation so that I could advocate for them and what they were looking to accomplish what dreams they had and the reason they were actually listing this property in the first place. I can remember once I understood this concept, going on the listing appointment completely changed for me. I used to show up and I was really nervous and not very confident that they would hire me. I don't know if anybody else has felt that way, but I recognize that people want to work with someone they feel connected to, right? That's why I always talk about connecting versus convincing. They want to work with someone that cares about what's important to them. And more importantly, they want to work with someone that's very confident in their ability to deliver the results. I hope that makes sense. I remember sitting in the living room across from sellers and having a conversation about price and commission. And those were the two things that were left to discuss before they were willing to actually sign the paperwork with me or any other agent. And here's the thing, they had met with other agents that were willing to give them a higher price and also give them a lower commission. But because I knew their motivation, I was able to be very direct with them. And as you remember from the other day, I told you one thing that I do and I recommend you do when you're on a presentation is ask the seller for permission to be direct with them. I've never had anyone say, no, you can't be direct with me. But once I get their permission, it allows me to really speak my truth and really talk to them about what they need to do. And so when I asked them if I could be direct with them, and then I said I didn't care about, they didn't care about anything I had to say until I really understood what their whole point was. But I talked to them about where they were going and why that deadline was so important. And I explained to them, you know, in regards to pricing, although they were pushing back on price, I pushed back and said, I can list your house at any number. I think you guys know that. We can list a house at any number. But if the seller has a motivation and they have a timeline that's really important to them, we are doing them a disservice if we overprice it. And that's exactly what I said to the seller. I said, listen, I can list your house at any number. The question is, do you want to be on the market or do you want to be in the market? And of course they answered they wanted to be in the market. So I was able to have a conversation with them and say, that's why the market is telling us we have to be priced here in order to get your home sold. And quite frankly, I'd rather, remember from yesterday, I'd rather turn you down than let you down. If you're not willing to price this property at a number that will cause it to sell so we can get you, for them, they were going to Ohio, so we can get you to Ohio by June, I'd rather turn you down than let you down. And here's the difference. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to be willing to actually get up and leave that appointment and walk away from that opportunity. I am not willing, and we talked about this morning on the morning mindset call, I'm not willing to spend my marketing dollars for photography and staging and running ads and doing open houses and doing broker opens behind the overpriced listing. I refuse to do it. And because I took that stance and I'm advocating for what was important to them, they finally understood that if they wanted to get their home sold, they needed to price it correctly, and they did. Those are the types of conversations we have to be having, and I hope that makes sense. So here's the opportunity. Hold on, I got somebody in the waiting room. If you guys can check the waiting room, make sure we're letting people in. So here's the opportunity, and I say this all the time, you guys have heard me say it before. A broken clock is right twice a day. And all this means is that sometimes you can have success just showing up for a listing appointment. You may not be scripted correctly. You may not do all the things correctly. However, sometimes people just choose you because you actually showed up at the right time. However, if we want to create a business that is repeatable and consistent and profitable, we have to be highly scripted. And as a real estate agent, you would agree that everything that we do and say is highly scripted. And I didn't realize that in the beginning. The things that I was saying were scripts. They were just the wrong scripts. They were the scripts that I had kind of internalized and had heard people saying around the office, but they weren't the scripts that would actually cause me to be able to build the rapport and connection I needed to get them to actually make a buying decision to choose me on the sale of their property. So I want to share something with you really quickly. And the reason why I'm turning my camera off, I have to connect with you when I tell you this story. So I had a for sale by owner that I had been calling for months. And this was over in the Passaic County area of New Jersey and Greenwood. And I go on this appointment, and this was at a point in time where I knew the listing presentation. I won't say that I had mastered it down to a level where I couldn't get it wrong, but I knew enough where I could go in and create opportunities for myself. And I go in, I sit down with the couple after they gave me the 30-minute tour of their property, right? And I sit down with them and I'm having the conversation, and I'm starting off the conversation following the script. However, I felt like I was losing them a little bit. And so I threw the script away and I just started to wing it. And I started to lean on the Ford method. We talked about this before, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. I started going back to that and trying to connect with them and build rapport. So I'm looking around the house and I'm noticing things like they got James Patterson books. And I'm like, oh, I love the Alex Cross series. And I noticed that they had a lot of cookbooks. And so we started talking about cooking and how much I love cooking, and my family, how we really bond in the kitchen. And so we were having this great conversation. And in my head, I'm sitting there like, damn, Dave, you're killing this. These people love you. You're having this great conversation. So much so that the wife said, excuse me for a minute. And she got up and walked outside to her garden. And she brought me back the biggest zucchini I had ever seen in my life. And she was like, this is out of my personal garden. I grew this zucchini, and she's giving it to me, like presenting it to me. And I grabbed the zucchini. I'm like, thank you. And she got up again and went to her kitchen and she got the cookbook and she copied down her recipe for zucchini bread. So I'm sitting there like a boss. I'm like, look at this. This lady loves me. I've connected with her. She's giving me zucchinis out of her personal garden. She's giving me the recipe. I'm like, yes, I got this, right? I'm feeling pretty good about it. And then all of a sudden, the husband stands up and he was like, okay, David, nice talking to you. Gotta go, right? He's rushing me out the house. So I went from thinking that I had built all this rapport and I had this connection with them and they were going to list with me. And I'm walking out to my car with a zucchini in one hand and the recipe in the other hand. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like, I really couldn't figure out what happened. And so just side note to this, I did make the recipe and it was amazing. The zucchini bread was great, but I didn't want zucchini bread. I wanted to get the listing. Here's where I messed up. And I think you guys could probably tell me where I messed up. I didn't stick to my script. I went in to build rapport and they liked me, but they're not looking for a new friend. They're looking for a real estate agent that can actually get the job done. And I didn't do a great job of demonstrating that because I got thrown off. And I felt like I needed to work on building rapport versus connecting with them and really making the presentation about them, their goals for getting the house sold, and why that was important to them. So let that be a message to you. I'm not saying don't get to know people and don't be personal. What I'm saying is you have to follow a canned listing presentation that's going to guide your conversation from start to finish, from soup to nuts, as I like to say. You have to follow that canned listing presentation. Don't be like me, feeling good about the conversation you're having, but walking away empty-handed. Because as I mentioned before, the National Association of Realtors, what did they tell us? 82% of home sellers, they only interview one agent. We sometimes give them a reason to interview more than two because we aren't doing our job. We're too busy trying to connect and build rapport and be friendly versus actually doing what we need to do, which is actually showing them why they should choose us. Does that make sense? I hope it does. All right, let me go back to sharing my screen. All right, next slide there. So I want to talk to you guys today about the 4 steps to listing mastery. That's what we're going to cover right now. The first one is here. To me, mindset is the foundation of everything. If you don't believe that you are the best agent for the job, you will never convince the seller that you are the right choice. So part of it is you believing that you can get the job done for them, that you are the best option for them to get the home sold. I remember it like it was yesterday. I went on a listing appointment. I was living in Houston, and I was at that point in time in real estate, I was helping investors buy HUD foreclosures. That's actually how I got into real estate. I started buying properties for me, and I met an agent who sold HUD foreclosures, and he helped me find a property, but then he encouraged me to get my license and come work for him. He was actually a broker, And so I got my license and started working with him, and I would help investors buy foreclosure properties. Well, this one investor that I helped purchase a property, once he had it fixed up, he was ready to lease it out. So he and his wife actually set up a listing appointment for me to come by and talk with them about what they could rent it out for and put a plan together so we could find them their first tenant. I had never listed a property before. At that point in time, I was only working with investors. I didn't have all the confidence that I have now, especially around running comps and pricing property and delivering a presentation that I knew could actually close them. And I remember I did the best I could do. I remember knocking on their door. And like, as I'm walking up to the door, I'm so nervous. As they open the door to say hello, like I could feel a sweat going down the side of my face. I was so nervous. I made it through the presentation. I don't want to say unfortunately, but let me say this. I got the listing. I didn't get the listing because I was the best agent. I really believe that I got that listing only because they had a prior relationship with me. And if I'm being transparent here, I think they gave me the listing because they had pity for me. They felt sorry for me because I really struggled through that presentation when they had questions for me about pricing, when they had some objections. I was able to answer them okay, but you could tell that my confidence wasn't there. I was just kind of BSing my way through it. And I think they just threw me a bone. My attitude had to change after that. I recognized that the way I showed up wasn't very professional. It was doing me a disservice. And if I hadn't had that previous relationship with them, I know in my heart of hearts, I would not have received that business. So I had to change my mindset. And this is where affirmations kicked in. You know, there are affirmations that I used to hear all the time, like, I am a listing machine. You know, my girl Patty Gurney says, I'm a listing machine and listings come to me continuously. And I started saying these affirmations because there's this whole concept, if you guys haven't heard of it before, called be, do, have. And so when you start speaking the affirmation, I'm a listing machine, and you may not believe it in the beginning, but the more you say it, the more you start to believe it and the more you want to show up like that person. Affirmations are about speaking about the person you want to become, not the person you currently are, but the person you want to become. So when I started saying I'm a listing machine and saying things like listings come to me continuously, I started to look at what do agents do that are listing machines? And then I started doing what they did. And then that's where the have comes in. If you have the right mindset and the right attitude and you're doing the right things, then the business starts coming. And before I knew it, I started having some opportunities and people were calling me to actually list their property. But it started with me working on my mindset. And I've had that same journey, not just in real estate, but for those of you who know me, I've shared with you before, in my previous career, I could not stand up in front of two people and say a peep. I would just shut down. Like, I couldn't speak. I had this immense fear of public speaking, and that was blocking me from having a lot of opportunities in life. And I finally made up my mind to stop saying I'm horrible at public speaking, because that was an affirmation. I didn't really realize that at the time, but that was an affirmation. That was a script that I was saying over in my head over and over again that turned out to be my reality. And it wasn't until I started saying, I'm working on becoming a better presenter, a better public speaker every single day, that I started getting comfortable with the thought of being in front of a group. And I started doing things like going to Toastmasters, and I started doing things like raising my hand and volunteering to speak at a meeting when my hand was still shaking because I was nervous about that opportunity. But here's what happened. And this is something one of my great friends, Haza, said to me that was like a big aha moment for me. She was like, the thing that impresses me about you is that you took something that was your biggest fear 20 years ago, and now that's how you make your money. That's your business. You speak, you get up in front of people. And it's pretty amazing that you went through this journey. And now look at where you are. You're speaking in front of groups of large people. And although I still have those nerves and those butterflies that kick in, I just don't say I'm nervous anymore. I change that and I say I'm excited. And sometimes those butterflies kick in, but it doesn't stop me from doing it because I changed my mindset. I hope you guys are hearing me on that. The way we talk to ourselves, that's the biggest script we need to work on more than anything. I can teach you scripts about how to get for sale by owners and expires and teach you a script on how to do a listing presentation. But if the script you have playing in your head over and over again is, they'll never use me, I'm not good enough, I don't know enough, you're not going to actually take action. I need you to take action. So think about that. Be, do, have. The be, talk about it. That's the affirmation. And then start doing the activities to become that person you want to be, and you'll have the results that you're actually looking for. Can you guys commit to working on your mindset and how you talk to yourself? And if you can commit to that, I want some engagement in the chat. I want you to type the word commit, that you can commit to doing that. Come on, I got a lot of people in here and I'm seeing 2 commits. If you're committed to watching your mindset, working on your mindset and how you talk to yourself, I want you to put commit or chat, yes, or thumbs up, whatever it is in the chat. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine and someone who's gone through my program, Lamont. And let me tell you about Lamont. When Lamont and I were first working, he was still working full-time in corporate America and doing real estate part-time. And there are so many agents that are dual career. In fact, how many people on this call right now are dual career? If you're dual career, just type dual in the chat. I just want to know how many people are. Okay, so there are a few of you. So you guys will understand. You will understand this. Most dual career agents that I have conversations with don't believe that they can actually successfully transition into real estate full-time. And there was a point that Lamont felt the exact same way. And he would spend his evenings showing properties, and his entire weekends would be spent hosting open houses and attempting to work with buyers. There was no balance. It was either he was working corporate or working real estate. He just didn't really have a life. And it wasn't until he went through my training program and started to understand the amount of leverage that you can put in place when you're listing focused, right? He started understanding that as a listing agent, he has much more control over his time. And the biggest mindset shift that he had after going through the program is that he understood that if he became listing focused, he could control his time. And I'm so happy to report that once he started being listing focused and started prospecting and getting listings, he did enough part-time where he had the confidence to leave his corporate job. And he actually left his full-time job and started doing real estate full-time. And when I followed up with him, because we talk on a regular basis, when I had followed up with him just a few months after that, he and his partner had 10 active listings. Like, that's incredible to embody and understand, like, hey, if I go after listings, I can leverage myself. And he understood the concept. He went through the training and understood the scripting, and he had 10 active listings. And that's the biggest thing he said to me, is that going through the program gave him confidence in knowing what to do and what to say and how to focus on the 3 L's of real estate, which are leads, listing, and leverage. And he was able to go out there and get those listings. And now he's also transitioned into becoming a major investor and buying properties and renting those out as midterm rentals. So he's having a lot of success there, but it really allowed him to understand that as a dual career agent, yes, you can transition into real estate if you're working with buyers. It's a lot harder though, because your evenings, your weekends have to be committed to working with buyers. And when you're working with sellers, you can leverage out showings, you can leverage out open houses so that you can focus all your time on what's important, which is prospecting and getting listing appointments. So now that I've covered that with Lamont, I will tell you one of the biggest things that he learned was pre-qualification. And what he learned and what I want to share with you guys is, just because you get a listing appointment, it doesn't mean that you should be going on every single appointment that you get. I should have been doing something called like a 2-step process. I think you guys have heard about that. And what I learned is I had to pre-qualify, and I didn't necessarily have to do a 2-step. I could pre-qualify on the phone. And so what I learned to do, the minute someone booked an appointment with me, I didn't drop anything anymore and just run to their house. That's done. Like, I created a new standard in my business that I'm going to slow down the process. And instead of just running out and thinking I have a great opportunity, I'm going to slow down and do a process called pre-qualification. What's so important about pre-qualifying? This is where you learn more about the seller. It's when you uncover, hear me on this, This is when you uncover objections and questions that might come up at the appointment. And this way, it allows you to prepare for the actual listing appointment. During the pre-qualification, if they ask you what your commission is, you're not discussing commission, right? They don't even know your value yet. So it's not the right time to talk about your commission. However, you're asking the questions so you can find out what objections and questions are going to come up for you when you're at the appointment. Things like the competition. In the pre-qualification, you learn to ask, are you interviewing other agents for the opportunity to list your home? And when they tell you yes, the follow-up question is, who are they? It's important that we know that information because we want to be prepared. We want to be able to run stats and see how we compare to that competition that they're interviewing. And for all of you new agents that are probably thinking, as you should, I don't have any experience, I don't have any stats, so how does that benefit me? Well, that's when you lean on the company you work for. If they tell you who they're interviewing and they tell you the company, then you can compare your company to the company that they're interviewing. And you should always go to that meeting being able to talk about why they should hire you over the competition. It's easier to do that when you know who the competition is and when you've actually taken time to actually do the homework. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So here's the next one. Clients plus pre-qualification actually equals conversion. When I finally bought into using a pre-qualification questionnaire every single time I went out, things started to change. And more importantly, in my business during the pre-qualification, it wasn't just a suggestion, it was a standard in my business. I don't care if it was my mother, my best friend, my neighbor, no matter who it was, if they were open to having a conversation with me, it was not a listing appointment if I did not do the pre-qualification. And these are the advantages. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a soft close because you're asking when I come out, do you plan on listing with me? So it gives you an opportunity to do a soft close and kind of gauge what they're thinking. It gives you an opportunity to find out if there's going to be any competition, if you're going to be up against anyone. It gives you an opportunity to understand their pricing expectations because you're asking questions like, when I come out, how much do you want to list your home for? That's going to tell you pretty quickly if they have a pulse on the market or if they're just way in left field. You know who you're dealing with by asking these questions. And there are certain questions that I've learned to include in my pre-qualification. Asking a simple question like, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when I come out there, how do I win with you? How do I lose with you? What are you expecting from the agent you hire? And then more importantly, and this is something we talked about this morning on the Morning Mindset call, it's imperative that we ask, will every single decision maker be there for our meeting? The last thing you want to do is waste your time presenting to one person just to know you have to come back and talk to the other decision maker. If both parties can't be there, then we should be rescheduling. We should not be going out and having multiple meetings with people. And so these are just some of the advantages of pre-qualification. It's just some. One of the things that I will tell you is that if you have the time, and I recommend that you do this, and this is really smart, and I hope that you guys write this down, your pre-qualification is going to give you all the information that you need. And so remember yesterday when I told you we need to do this, kind of cover our mouth? When people are talking and they're sharing, don't rush through the questionnaire. As long as they're answering your questions, they're okay staying on the phone. You need to learn how to be quiet and let them talk. And when they're saying something really interesting, don't rush them through to the next question. Sometimes just pause for a second and say, tell me a little bit more about that. The more information you get from them, you have a better connection with them. You know more about them than any other agent that's going to meet with them. So when they're comparing all the people they met with, you stand out more because you have this connection with them. You understand so much more about them and what they're looking to accomplish because you took the time to actually listen. Which brings me to a good friend of mine, Mr. Raj. What can I say about this guy? What I love about Raj is that he's extremely coachable. He's gone through my program several times. And I remember having a conversation with Raj early on in the program after he went on the listing appointment. And my question for him is like the question I have for any of my clients when they are meeting with someone who's selling their home. I always say, why are they selling? Because I want to see, did you do a great job of pre-qualifying, or are you going there attempting to wing it? And here's the thing where I know immediately that they didn't do the pre-qualification. They say things like, well, I think they're selling for this reason. I believe they want to do this. If that's any part of your vocabulary, that tells me right then and there, you have not pre-qualified. We should not be assuming what the seller's motivation is for selling. We need to ask what their motivation is. We need to dig deep into their motivation to fully understand that on the logical and on an emotional level. And there were times when Raj and other students would struggle with this, including myself in the past. However, once you commit to yourself and to your business to do things a different way, and you make the commitment with honor. Ira and I always say this, like, when you do something with honor, it means that you do it no matter what. Time blocking, putting things in your calendar, you do it with honor. It means that if you're putting it in your calendar, you actually do it. I made this a standard in my business to pre-qualify, and I made that a standard in my business with honor, which means I'm going to do it every single time. I want you guys to think about that, and I want you to start doing that when you make commitments, when you put things in your calendar, when you decide to do things a new way, like learning a listing process. I want you to make those commitments with honor, where it means more to you, where it's your integrity on the line. You say you're going to do something, you actually do it. And because Raj kind of had that come to Jesus meeting with me, he started pre-qualifying every single appointment. And what he noticed, just like most of us notice when we start pre-qualifying, is that the number of listing appointments go down a little bit, because a lot of times we're going on appointments we have no business going on, but the level of conversion increases because you know the logical and emotional reason that person is selling. I hope that makes sense to you. And so my question for you guys is this: are you pre-qualifying every single seller you meet with? I want you to think about that. And if you're not, moving forward, can you commit to creating a standard in your business that every seller, even your mom, as I put on here, will be pre-qualified? Can you make that commitment? If you can make that commitment, you know what I want you to do. Just put in the chat commit or yes. I want to know that you're serious about making that commitment. Awesome. Awesome. While you guys do that, and I'll read the comments. I got to sip some water here. So next section I want to talk to you guys about is the pre-listing packet. Most of the agents I talk to don't necessarily know what it is, and a lot of them don't do it for whatever reason. Let me start off by saying, for my first few years in real estate, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a pre-listing packet, never heard of it. I'm sure I'm not the only one either. And what is a pre-listing packet for those of you who are new that don't really know? It's essentially, it's a packet of information that you deliver to the seller prior to your listing appointment. And the pre-listing packet includes things like your bio, your resume, who you are, a picture of you, your stats or your company stats if you're new, your personalized marketing plan, like what is your strategic approach to marketing their property and getting it sold? Information on pricing the property, why pricing correctly is so important, why we need to be at market value or less so that we can attract more buyers to the property. And I like to add a little bit of homework for my sellers, and I'll discuss that later on today, what that homework is. When it comes to securing a listing appointment, our commission is always an issue in the absence of value. I say that all the time. So we have to find ways to stand out from our competition and show our value to the sellers. This is done by having systems like a pre-qualification and now a pre-listing packet. When all the other agents just show up, but you've actually taken the time to send them some information in advance so they can read up on who you are and what you do to get property sold, you automatically stand out from the other agents. And this is what you want. Again, we want to put ourselves in a situation where we are showing our value. And when I first started sending out the pre-listing packet, I went on the listing appointment And in my pre-listing packet, I gave the seller homework. I didn't know if the seller would even read the packet or more importantly, do the homework. And let me just tell you this, when you knock on the door for a listing appointment and the seller invites you in and they have you come sit down at the kitchen table and you look and see they have your pre-listing packet and you see that they've actually completed the homework, I don't know about you, but that did so much for my confidence. I kind of did one of these, like, yes, like that's my listing, because I see, number one, I already knew they were motivated or I wouldn't have been there. But one other standard that I like to have when it comes to taking on new clients, I want to work with someone who's actually coachable, who's willing to take my advice and do the things that I recommend in order to get their home sold. And they showed me they were coachable. They did everything I recommended. And I left the house with that paperwork signed. They were ready to list with me. You know, there are times when a listing appointment can last 5 minutes or it can last 45 minutes. This was one of those appointments that I walked in and one of my early questions were, do you want me to sell your home? And this was right in the beginning, right in the first 5 minutes of that presentation. And they said yes, because they were so impressed with everything I had already done, everything I had already sent to them. They understood what I was going to do to market the property. They were able to see my sales stats. They were able to see the entire process. And so when I walked in, they were primed and ready to go. And so when I said, do you want me to handle the sale? They said yes. And so I shut my mouth, went right to the comps. We agreed on the price, got the paperwork signed, and that was it. The pre-listing package is important. It's something that you need to have together. And it's something you need to send out every time. You can send it out via email. You can have it on Google Drive and send them a link they can click on. But here's a little side note that I want to tell you and that I would recommend. I like to book my listing appointments at least a day out because I want an opportunity to drop that pre-listing packet off in person. In the beginning, I did this selfishly because I always felt more at ease in the house going on the listing appointment if I had been there before. So by dropping off the pre-listing packet, it gave me an opportunity to meet the seller, shake their hand. And when I was there, I would just say, well, since I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and tour the property. It'll take me 5 minutes. This is going to help me when I run the comparables for your property since I've seen it now. So can I take a few minutes and just walk your property? And they always allowed me to do that. And during that process, the 5 minutes might turn into 10 minutes, but I got a chance to talk with them briefly, give them a chance to see who I am and who, what I do. And when I showed up for the listing appointment, I found my anxiety level was so much lower because it was familiar. The house was familiar, the seller was familiar, and it really helped me feel more comfortable in my skin as a listing agent. And so I would recommend, if you have the opportunity to drop it off in person, definitely do that. It serves you well. It gives you, again, the chance to, and that helps you run comps, but it also gives you an opportunity to meet and talk with the seller. So I want to introduce you to Ashley, and you guys actually had an opportunity to meet her yesterday. I didn't know she was going to be on the call, and you guys got a chance to talk with her, at least hear part of her story yesterday. I just want to remind you, and for those of you who weren't here yesterday, I started using TikTok, and I wasn't really great at using TikTok, and I didn't recognize that people could send you DMs or direct messages. I didn't know where to go and find that. And one day I was just sitting at home and I was going through TikTok and happened to come across my inbox, and I saw that Ashley had sent me a message. And I was kind of embarrassed because it was 30 days ago. Like, I didn't see it for 30 days. So I immediately reached out to her and invited her into, my morning mindset call and my Wednesday evening real talk call. And she became part of the tribe pretty quickly. And she went through my training program, and she really saw value in creating a pre-listing packet. This was something she wasn't already doing in her business. But what really impressed me about her was her coachability. I shared with her that when I was taking listings, I was an expired listing expert. And so I didn't just have a generic pre-listing packet. I had a generic one, but I also had one I created for expired listings that really gave them detailed information on how I help an expired, and it gave them stats on how I help previous expireds get their home sold. And she took that information and ran with it, and she created the best looking expired pre-listing packet that I have ever seen. And that allowed her to call the expireds, have a great conversation with them, go through the pre-qualification, really understand what was important to them, And she was able to send a packet of information out that showed them, I understand what your problem is. I know how to solve that problem. Here are people who've had a similar problem as you. Here's how I solve their problem. And so when she got to the listing appointment, they were so excited to meet with her. They knew that she knows how to do her job. They knew that not all great homes sell the first time around, and sometimes you just need a different approach and normally a different price. And they felt really confident in her. And as she shared with you guys yesterday, she's been able to get those expireds to list with her and pay her more commission than they were paying their first agent, because they saw her value and they saw the difference in how she showed up versus a typical agent. And that's what we have to do. We have to show our value. I'll say this over again. And here's the thing about me, guys. If you hear me saying the same thing multiple times, cue taking a note, because it's important. Commission is only an issue in the absence of value. The whole point of learning a listing process is to learn how to show your value, because commission is only an issue in the absence of value. All right, so are you guys sending out a pre-listing packet prior to your listing appointment 100% of the time? I want to hear it here, yes or no. Not sometimes, yes or no. Are you sending out a full pre-listing packet before you go on an appointment every single time? And it's okay, Oscar, like a lot of people, like I didn't know about it till I knew about it. And once I knew about it, it was a game changer for me. But there are so many people who just don't know. And for those of you who say yes every time, I got to applaud you, because that's exactly what we need to be doing. We need to send it out every time, no matter what, no matter who the person is. Are you guys excited to create a pre-listing packet? Those of you who don't use one, who've never heard of it, that haven't had that concept introduced to you, are you excited about learning how to put one in? That's what I want to hear. All right, perfect, perfect. So I want to get into listing presentation and the importance of following a listing presentation. So first of all, the benefits of following a CAN listing presentation is that it makes you very consistent. It makes you very consistent in everything you do and everything that you say, and it gives you structure to your meeting. And the biggest thing it does for you is when you learn it and memorize it and internalize it and you master it, it allows you to be present and be in the conversation that you're having with the seller. What do I mean by that? It means that when you're in front of a seller and they're talking to you and putting out maybe objections and concerns that they have about the property, you're able to be part of that conversation versus where a lot of us go. A lot of us go in our heads and think, oh boy, they're about to talk about commission. What was that script on commission? How do I handle that? And you're so busy thinking about how to respond to what they're saying that you're not even hearing what they're saying, and you're missing key points where they're giving you information that would allow you to take the listing. And that's the business and the importance of mastering a listing presentation where it's internalized. It allows you to know, I know what comes next. I know what I need to say next. So this allows me to really be belly to belly with the seller and look at them and listen to them and process what they're saying to me, because I already know what comes next. I already know how to respond to that question. I know how to respond to that objection I'm getting. Now I can stay clear and I can stay present and be part of the conversation. Larry is one of my students that went through my training program. And he told me before taking push, he was really uncomfortable following the script. And now he keeps scripts everywhere he goes. He has them on his phone. He has scripts everywhere. He knows the importance of being highly scripted. And he said it brought him a lot of confidence. It took his confidence up to another level when speaking with potential prospects, because he knew no matter what questions or concerns or objections they had, he knew how to handle that, or at the very least, he knew where to find the script that can help him handle that. So being highly scripted was a great thing for him. And here's the thing that I want you guys to understand. A lot of you dread when you hear an objection. I used to dread it too, like, oh boy, here they come talking about commission now. And I would dread it. I want to change your mindset about that really quickly. And this is something I changed Larry's mindset around. I used to get nervous when I would hear an objection. I used to try to avoid that because I didn't want to get caught up with not handling it correctly and losing the opportunity. But what I realized very quickly, and what I want you guys to realize, is that if a seller or even a buyer doesn't want to work with you, they're just going to hang up. They're just going to end the conversation. There's not going to be any opportunity there. You have to know that an objection, what it really is an unanswered question in the mind of the seller or the buyer. And if they're giving you objections, it's not because they don't want to work with you. They want to give you an opportunity to earn the business by seeing if you can overcome the objection that they're giving you. So I want you guys to change your whole mindset around getting objections. I want you now, every time you get one, yes, I got another objection. I'm doing something right. They're objecting, but that's showing that they have interest. I just need to be able to handle the objection that they're giving me. I hope that makes sense. And I want you guys to get to a point where that's how you feel about it, because I'm telling you now, the agents that show their value and can answer the questions and overcome the objections that the seller are giving them are the ones that are getting the opportunities. So you should welcome those objections. The key is, of course, knowing how to handle them, right? Okay, next slide. So if you knew how to execute the entire listing presentation flawlessly, how would that improve your confidence? Think about that. And I want you guys to type in really quickly in the chat. So far, based on what I said, before I get too far into it, what's been the most valuable from the conversation so far today? I want you to throw it in the chat. What's been the most valuable thing that you've heard from our conversation today? Let me pull my chat up so I can see the comments here. Where do you get the packet? That's a great question. You get the packet is prepared. Is one of the things that I do in my training program is show you how to put the packet together and personalize it and make it your own. It's very valuable. And the good thing about it, though, that I will tell you is that you only have to do it one time. Once you have it, it's done. RJ, know your worth. Katie, pre-listing packet. Okay. Denise, provide value. Charlotte, handling objections. All right. Commission is an issue when you haven't shown your value. That's right. Being proficient in scripts brings confidence. Knowing the pre-listing packet. Getting sellers to understand the listing price. I love it. I love it. Okay, great. You guys can keep that coming. If you have any more, just put them in there. I'm not going to be able to get through all of them right now, but I'll go back and I promise to read the chat later on. So please keep going. If there's something that you pulled from the class today that's really resonated with you, please put that in the chat. I want you guys to take a second and just kind of loosen up with me. I want to go through a little exercise with you where we are projecting and looking at your future self. And here's what I want you to do. Put your feet flat on the ground. And I want you to imagine, just 30 days from now, you're clearer than you've ever been before about how to deliver a listing presentation that connects with your audience. And you're sitting there imagining about the possibilities that you can create now implementing a CAN listing presentation into your business. Your mindset is extremely clear. You've internalized the script. You've internalized and mastered the listing presentation. You're no longer afraid of a seller saying, come meet with me. You actually welcome that. All your excuses are gone. That drunk monkey that's been in your ear is quieted down. We've gotten rid of that drunk monkey. And for the very first time, you're really excited about the opportunity to meet face-to-face with the seller, to be belly-to-belly with the seller. And then I want you to look out over 6 months from now and imagine you've delivered now multiple listing presentations. You've gotten more listings than ever, and you're rapidly becoming a top producer in your area. And you've got this certainty and this conviction about you because you're super confident that you can deliver for your clients. And now let's expand out even further. Let's go 12 months from now. And I want you to imagine that you've created this business that you've always desired. Your vision, all the affirmations you were saying, your vision, your big why is now your reality. I mean, when you really think about that, if you're really doing this exercise the way you should, I want you to notice, does your body feel different? How's that feel when you think about it? Take a deep breath and visualize that. Think about once you've mastered all this and you're operating at a high level, How much GCI are you making? And for the new agents, that's gross commission income. What's your GCI? How many people are you serving? How many families are you helping every year? And even more than that, I want you to think about, and I want you to notice the gratitude that you feel within yourself because you made a commitment to you and you kept that commitment. You showed up for yourself. You showed up for your family. And instead of sitting on the sidelines, you actually got in the game and you worked and perfected your craft to the point where you couldn't get it wrong. And you're out there taking listings and converting and having the best year you've ever had. How's that feel? I know how that feels for me. That's exciting for me. Like I want to step into that future where I'm operating on that level. And within that space, I want you to find your why. I want you to think about what your why is. I want you to think about what's the reason for creating that and creating a business like that. What is that going to do for you? What is that going to do for your family? What's the reason for you to go beyond your fears? What's the reason for you to go beyond all the excuses that we all make, all the self-limitations that we put on ourselves, and fully stepping into your purpose and potential? All you need is already within you. What's your why? Is it your kids? Maybe. Is it bigger than even your family? Is it about realizing your full potential and honoring your gifts? Is it that you're fed up, underachieving, right? Relative to what you know you're capable of, and you know you're not operating at your highest level? Are you sick of sitting on the sidelines? I mean, what is it for you? Because tapping into your why is extremely important. And I have to tell you, I had a conversation, and I want you guys, if you have things like freedom, family, I see you guys putting that in the chat, put that in there. I had a conversation, and let me just unshare my screen really quickly. Okay. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Pete Kopech. And what he said to me was, he had gone to a training, and we always talk about our big why. And typically when we talk about our big why, and there's nothing wrong with this, it's, hey, I want the house, I want the car, I want to travel, the vacation things, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. One of my big whys I'm hoping to realize in October, which is going to Yellowstone and Grand Tetons and doing my photography. So it's okay to have those types of things. But one thing he said to me based on this training he went to is, who is your big why? And he left me with that when we had lunch one day. And I sat there during some of my quiet times when I do a brain dump, and I started thinking, who is my big why? Well, of course, my wife and my kids, I always want to do for them. But when I really started thinking about it, it turned out to be my mom. And I'm not going to get into a lot of details with you, but my mom suffers from a mental condition. And as she gets older, I'm starting to notice things like early onset dementia kicking in, and things aren't great. And so I said, that's it. That's who it is. My big why, my who is my mom, because I know and I recognize that moving forward, taking care of her the way she's going to need to be taken care of is not going to be cheap. It's going to be expensive. And I want to make sure that she has a good quality of life. And I also want to make sure it doesn't disrupt my family finances, right? So my big who became her. I need to have success in order to put money up for what I know is coming. And so when I tapped into it that way, it became a no-brainer. It's like, I'm getting up every morning, and sometimes I don't wake up every morning just popping out the bed ready to go. But when I think about my big who and what I'm hopping out of the bed for, I tell you this, even if I'm dragging, I get out of bed. And I think that's the difference a lot of times. Like sometimes we just stay in that bed because our why doesn't drive us enough. But when you attach it to a who, game changer. Game changer. I hope you guys hear me on that. Okay, I'm going to go back and share my screen again. Who is your big why? Who's your why? Think about it. You don't have to answer it here, but I just want you thinking about that, because when you have clarity, there is power in clarity, and it will get you moving once you recognize what that big why is and why it's so important for you to be focused on that and go after that with your family. All right, let me share my screen here. Give me 1 second. So based on all that I just shared and the exercise I went through with you guys, are you committed to create that type of future that you want? If you are serious about creating that future and becoming the best version of yourself, then I want to share with you what the next steps look like. And if it resonates with you, if you've enjoyed this training series, I want to share with you the next steps of working with me. And I'm going to have a Q&A. So if you have any questions, I want you to get them kind of queued up in your head, because I definitely want an opportunity to answer questions that you guys may have for me. I know I'm set to end this at 12:30, and yet I'm pretty committed. My schedule's free where I can stay on to make sure every question is answered. Now, here's one thing I want to say. What I do is not for everyone. Just like I tell sellers when I go on listing appointments, I'm coming out to evaluate your property, but I don't take every listing. And I don't, because I have to be working with someone who's motivated and coachable. Working with me, going through my training program is not for everyone. I have to be 100% upfront about that. This is not for everyone. If you aren't willing to make contribution bigger than your excuses, it's not going to be a good fit. If you're not at a point where you can live what's on my bracelet here, I want it more than I fear it, and get off the sidelines, this may not be a good fit for you. If you aren't willing to do the work to deeply understand and connect with your audience, this isn't going to be for you. But this is what I know. You guys are here because you're ready to have a change in your business. And if you're willing to put a listing process in place that shows your value, that helps you understand the seller's motivation, that creates a blueprint for your listing appointments, and that helps you internalize the dialogue that you need to have with sellers, I want you to know, I know that you're ready. Do you know that you're ready to get out there and get your unfair share and master the 3 L's of real estate: leads, listings, and leverage? I want to share it with you what the next steps look like. First thing I want to tell you is that this is a proven system for those that are really serious. This is an agent-tested system. Agents have gone through this training. They've learned the scripts. They've learned to internalize them. They've learned to pre-qualify, go through the entire listing process, how to overcome the objections that we face, and more importantly, the most important thing, how to close, how to get that paperwork signed so you're not walking out of the house empty-handed. And I have enrollment opening right now for my PUSH training program. You guys see it here. PUSH stands for Prospect Until Success Happens. That's what PUSH stands for. And right now I have space and I'm opening it up for 20 people. And I start on August 1st. And I just want to briefly go through this with you so you guys know who I am and what I do and what this program entails. And like I said before, it's not going to be for everyone. But if you're ready to make a change, I want to just walk you through what the program looks like. So first and foremost, PUSH is listing and prospecting mastery. So you do both, and I'll cover what that means. First thing, how to find for sale by owners and training around how to deal with for sale by owners, right? And next to each bullet point, I put the value, going and looking at other training programs. You get a feel for what other training programs are charging for this. So I just want to be transparent and show you that. FSBO appointment script, how to book appointments, how to handle a preview, what do you say, what do you do, all the training that you need to give you confidence to call for sale by owners. Now I'm talking about the FSBOs now, and you notice my entire time talking to you guys over these 3 days, I didn't talk about prospecting, and that's by design. Here's what I understand. A lot of us aren't calling FSBOs and expireds and doing circle prospecting because we aren't afraid of the rejection. We're afraid of them saying, yes, come and meet with me. So it's very important for me to make sure in my training program, we cover the entire listing process first, so that by the time we get into the training on how to get on the phone and make calls and prospect, your confidence level is so high. You're like, I'm ready for them to say yes, because I've gone through the training. I know how to handle going on the listing appointment. I know the steps. I have the blueprint. I'm ready. So by the time we get to FSBOs, you've already covered all that. You understand what you need to know in order to create those opportunities and take those listings. I also go over working with expireds, how to set appointments with expireds. We talk about their mindset, how to approach them, the frustrations they have, and the fact that they have a right to be frustrated because their property expired with another agent. You gain a lot of confidence on how to have the proper dialogue with them to convert them. Now, here's the thing here. This piece here, if you ask me, out of all the areas that I cover, learning how to become a 6% agent, to have a mindset that you're worth 6% and knowing your worth is worth the entire cost of the program. Here's what it allows you to do. It allows you to get paid what you're worth. We tell sellers all the time, hire me so you don't leave any equity on the table. And as real estate agents, we are always negotiating and giving our commission away for two reasons mainly. One, we don't know how to demonstrate our value, which you learn through my program. But two, we don't know how to defend our commission. When someone says, will you lower your commission? Half the time we're thinking, if I don't say yes, I'm going to lose this opportunity. So I have to negotiate my commission. And I'm here to tell you that is not the case. However, you need to know how to defend your commission. And the easiest thing is, like my guy, Mike Ferry always says, the easiest answer to that is no. Do you have any other questions? However, the caveat is, if they do have other questions and they have other concerns, you can't just keep saying, no, do you have any other questions? You have to know how to handle every objection that you get 3, 4, or 5 times. You have to know how to overcome that objection so that if they come to you from different ways, you have something to say. And that's one thing I train you in the program is how to have the mindset of a 6% agent, how to show your value at 6%, but more importantly, how to defend your commission at the listing presentation so they see your value and they see why they should pay you 6%. Because they don't know how inexpensive it is to hire a professional until they hire an amateur that doesn't know how to negotiate and defend their own commission. So we have conversations about that. Also, the motivated sellers pre-qualifying questions. We go through that. We teach you the script, how to go through it, how to navigate that conversation. You put together your own pre-listing packet. It's not going to look like anyone else's. It's your own personalized pre-listing packet. And then once it's all done, I review it, give you feedback, that you're ready to go. So if anybody calls you and says, hey, come out and meet with me, you have a packet together already. And all you have to do is maybe change the photo, put their house photo on the front and get it in front of them so they know who you are and what you do to get the property sold. Then there's the listing presentation training. Everything's covered soup to nuts. And what I mean by that is everything's covered from you show up on time and you knock on the door and you say, hey, it's 12, we had an appointment at 12, can I come in? All the way through to now all we need to do is sign the contract. Will you sign the contract so I can get your house on the market and get you to California by June? We cover everything so that your confidence level, you walk into that listing and you know that you can handle any question, any objection, anything that comes up around pricing, you know how to handle that at a high level, and you aren't giving these sellers a reason to go interview another agent. They're going to list with you. We also do live role playing and training. You are assigned a role play partner each week, a different role play partner, because I know it's tough to find people who are serious about role playing. I alternate every week because sometimes people can be flaky. I think you guys already know that in this market dealing with real estate, it's hard to find good role play partners, but you get a role play partner each week where you're practicing the scripts. I have you record yourself doing the presentation, send me the recording. I give feedback to show you how you're showing up, how you're mirror matching, how your tonality is. If you're following the script, you're able to get feedback because we have systems in place to help you level up as you're learning the scripts. And then you also have what I call hot seat coaching. I have this game I play. It's kind of like the Wheel of Fortune. You spin the wheel, your name comes up, and you're giving an objection or script that you have to cover. It really keeps you on your toes and it gets you to learn how to respond quickly, have your objection handlers ready. You never know what's coming. You never know what's coming when you're talking to a seller either. So the way you practice is the way you show up in the real world. And you want to be in an environment where you are challenged to be in the hot seat and go over the script and do the role play. And the beauty of that is you get feedback. Hey, you did a great job here. Here's what I need you to work on. And not only are you being helped, but everybody in the class is able to learn from that exchange as well. And we all have an opportunity to get out of our comfort zone. too many times. It's like my cousins in Ohio doing the double dutch. You're on the side and you're like, should I jump in? And you never jump in. You're on the sidelines ready to, and you never do. You're not going to perfect it until you actually jump in and get in the game. And that's the importance of having role play, is that you have opportunities to practice in a safe space. Like I always say, we sweat and practice so we don't bleed in war. The live role play is a safe place where you can practice and you can make all the mistakes. We expect you to make a mistake. We don't expect you to be perfect. We expect you to be working on getting better every day and moving yourself to a level of mastery to get yourself to a point where you can no longer get it wrong. Total value, if you add all this stuff together, could be over $12,000 to go through a training like this, right? That's not what I'm charging here. So wipe that off. That's not what I'm charging here. This program that starts up August 1st with me is a 5-week program that meets on Tuesday and Thursdays from 11 until 1:30. It's virtual, it's on Zoom. The program is $1,997, or you can just do 2 payments. It's a little bit more expensive if you do the 2 payments. And I wanted to give you a price break if you pay in full. So it's only $1,997. And for anybody who is really serious and actually signs up today, in August, I'm also going to throw in a 30-minute private coaching call with me where you're able to come in and do a coaching call with me on what your goals are, if you're having issues with your mindset, if things like fear of speaking is holding you back. We're able to have conversations about that during the private coaching call. So with that being said, I want to say this. I know that this program is not for everyone. This program is for people who are serious about taking their business to the next level. And if that's you, I invite you to join Push. It starts on August 1st. We'll drop the registration link if we haven't dropped it in there already. But I also want to take some time out and see what type of questions that you guys have for me. If you have any questions, I want you to just raise your hand. And there are no silly questions here. Like, I want you to understand that the way that you learn is by being willing to raise your hand and say, David, I have a question about this. I have a question about the program. What does this include? I'm open to any questions that you guys may have. So if you have one, raise your hand. No silly questions, but I wanted to give an opportunity to do a Q&A if you guys had any questions for me about what we've covered so far. Maybe I did such a good job. I mean, did I do such a good job that nobody has questions? I pat myself on the back there. All right, no questions. If you have questions and you don't want to raise your hand, I want you to put it in the chat. If you don't want to be like speaking or unmuting your computer, I don't mind if you put the questions in the chat and we can go through that. Let me ask you this, as you guys are thinking and getting ready for your questions, what was one of the major takeaways from today and from the session? Oh, so wait 1 second, I have a question. So yes, it's a Zoom call. It starts on August 1st, meeting Tuesday and Thursdays. It's on Zoom. And let me say this as well. One thing I say in the class is that I really want you to be present in the class. So I encourage people not to necessarily take notes during class. I record everything and live stream it into a private YouTube, and I share the recording after class. And that's when I encourage you to go back, watch the video, pause, and take your notes. When you're trying to write down stuff in class, you're not really listening and you miss so much. And so I record it because, number one, I want you to go back and review the questions. Number two, I have a lot of people who are dual career and they can't make every class, or they have to leave early, or they have to come in late. I want to make sure that they get the full benefit of hearing the entire class. So if you have any, if you have any issues with that, you will have access to the recordings. You're able to have access to the recordings up to 2 months after the program ends. So you can go back in, watch the videos, and take notes. So what I want to ask you guys is what are your major takeaways from today? If anybody's willing to raise their hand and unmute, based on what we've heard over the last three days, what's the one thing that you're going to do differently in your business? What's the takeaway? Where are you going to run with things to improve your listing business? Anybody want to share? Can't all be shy on this call. Tell me your takeaways. Allie, I'll hear from you. What's up? Oh, you're muted still.
There we go. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that You know what, David, I know you've said this before, but the whole being prepared, especially as a new agent, there's just so much trepidation and fear of like just not being, not having a really strong value proposition. So I would say that, I know you've said it, I'm hearing it again. And it's just the really key thing is that you're right. Like, if you don't know what you're doing and you're not prepared, then you're going to be afraid to really make phone calls because God forbid you get somebody goes, yeah, come on over, let's do it. So I think that is, there's a lot of value of what you have talked about, but that's the number one thing for me. Preparation is going to get you over that hump of not feeling valuable.
Allie, I'm so happy that you said that, because here's what I notice in myself, and I see it in other agents. A lot of times we sabotage ourselves on the phone. Like we're not asking enough questions. We're not closing enough because we really don't want them to say yes. We sabotage the opportunities because we aren't prepared. And when you are prepared, once they say yes, you have a whole process in place. You're able to show up with confidence and go take that listing. Deb, I'm gonna come to you in a second. I want to say that there was a question. The call from yesterday was recorded. You guys should have received an email. And if you're part of the Facebook group, it's also in the Facebook group, but you should have received an email with the recording from day 1 and day 2. You're also going to receive it for day 3. Someone else is asking, the call I did last night, my call Real Talk. I don't record or live stream that call because I invite people on to kind of share their story, and people open up a lot of times and we have some deep conversations, and sometimes people have breakdowns and breakthroughs. And I just want to be fair to the people who are willing to share and not have that out on the internet. So I don't record it. You actually have to be there in order to hear the conversation. If you didn't join, Khadijah did a great job yesterday. She had a great message, and I'm sorry that you missed that. But for that reason, I don't record those calls. I just like it to be a safe space where people can come and just speak their truth. So thank you for asking me about that. Deb Dash, go ahead.
Sorry, yes. No, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what I was saying before as well. And also too, even like listening to this, I've taken a class before, which even overall has been so helpful. But for every time I jump on something like this, it's a good refresher, it's a good review. And also new things just seems to always pop up. Like even like now I'm like thinking to myself, like when I was taking notes yesterday, the one thing that I do want to do and that I'm going to do is that my presentation and my pre qualification, because we get so caught up, especially when someone does answer and we're like, oh, hey, hi, and then there's some questions that you forget at times to ask, and just having the step by step. And I think, at least for me, over all this time, there's just been times that even like just talking to another agent or listening to something like this, is it helps me to think about what I can implement or add to what I'm doing and working on. And just knowing the step by steps, because once we're comfortable with the steps, once we take this step 2, 3, 4, then it'll be easier for us. And then on top of that, practicing the scripts, because it does make a world of a difference.
Yeah. Thank you, Deb, for saying that. It makes a huge difference. It really does. I'm looking in the chat, Christine. I don't know if you guys see her message here. She says, I am so close to going back to a full-time job. And then after these Zoom calls, I'm like, I can do this. Christine, we can all do this. We have to make a decision that we're ready to commit. I look at real estate. For me, it wasn't just like something I wanted to do for a short period of time. It was a career, it was a business that I wanted to have for myself. And I had to invest in myself when I first started started real estate. There were coaching programs that were a little uncomfortable for me to pay for, but I knew I needed them so I didn't develop bad habits. And I made that investment in myself, and I'm a better agent because of it. If you're leaning towards leaving real estate, like I know a lot of people are, and I know some people in the last week or two that have already left because it wasn't working for them, they weren't making money. We're going to sell 4.3 million homes. People are buying and people are selling. We have to learn how to get in between those conversations, get in front of those people, find the motivated people. And once we find those motivated people, we have to know what to say to them so that we can get our we can get our opportunity to sit down with them and show them what we can do. Once you know how to handle the listing presentation and that whole listing process, your confidence in asking questions and getting in front of people goes up because you know you can handle anything they throw at you. A lot of the times, the people who are leaving that I come across, they're leaving because they never did the one thing that all real estate agents need to do. Our one job in real estate is to lead gen and prospect. I don't know if you guys know that, if anyone's ever said that to you, but that's our job, is to lead gen and prospect. The purpose of lead genning and prospecting is to find people who want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. And when we find those people, we have to show them why they want to work with us and why they want to hire us. We need to show our value so they pay us what we're worth. And so you have to invest in a training program that's going to teach you how to do that at a high level so you can go out there and get your unfair share. And unfortunately, due to the state of the market, we're going to lose, as they say, 30% of the agents that are out there nationwide. What that's going to make room for are the people that stay committed, that actually have learned the process of getting a listing. It's going to open up more opportunities for you because you're going to have less competition. Got to stop sitting on the sidelines, though. I don't want anybody to go get a JOB. You left corporate America for a reason and came into real estate. I don't want you to go back. You're still going to be unhappy for all the reasons that you left. I don't want you to give up on real estate because you didn't invest in yourself. You didn't put the time into learning the skills to become a great listing focused agent that understands how to prospect and go out and find business. I don't want to see anyone leave for that reason. So whether you're taking my program or another program, you need to invest in yourself. Because when people invite you to come out to their house, and I'll leave you with this, I firmly believe this. When they invite you to come out and meet with them, they believe that you can actually help them. When you get there and you open your mouth, you either win it or you lose it. Don't lose it because you're practicing on your paycheck and you're winging the presentation. You shouldn't be losing it for that reason. You want to practice until you can't get it wrong. So with that being said, I will invite you guys in the chat. If you are interested in signing up for the program, you can click the link and sign up. If that program isn't right for you, I hope that you will still plug into everything that I do. I have the morning mindset call for real estate agents every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 8:40. As you guys know, I don't charge for that. For me, it's my way to give back. As I said before, I'm always looking to be the coach that I needed when I started in real estate. And I just like to be able to come from contribution to help agents every day, constantly putting videos out on TikTok, constantly putting videos on YouTube and Instagram to help you focus on your mindset, to inspire you, to give you a kick in the butt sometimes. Whatever is needed, that's what I'm there for. And I hope that you guys have gotten enough from these 3 days where if you haven't plugged in before, you'll start plugging in. And if you have been plugging in, I hope that you will continue to plug in. And I'll see you guys on the other side on social media. So I just want to say this. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you guys. And I hope that you walked away with these 3 days with something that brings you value, that will help you level up and be a better, stronger listing agent and go get after it. So I want to say I appreciate you guys and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here. Follow up with me, connect with me. You guys know how to find me. Any real estate agent that you can't find on social media or the internet, shame on you. You should be able to type in David Radney and find me anywhere. So if you need me, type that in. You can find me anywhere. And I welcome phone calls. And if you have anything you want to share with me about the call or any questions for me, reach out to me and I definitely would be more than happy to talk to you. And I hope that I see you guys out there. And more importantly, I hope I see you out there getting your unfair share. Go get those listings and go get them at 6%. Know your value. Know that once you understand people's problems and you can help them solve their problems, they're going to work with you all day. And those people will become your biggest advocate. And then you'll be able to call into your data bank and call those people that have worked with you and go get more and more and more business. So go get after it. I'll see you guys soon. I appreciate you. Y'all be good.